May 17, 1968. Wilbur Riddle is walking the brush off U.S. Route 25, eyes down, scanning for old glass insulators, the kind that used to sit on telephone poles, the kind collectors pay good money for. He sees canvas, green and white, folded heavy over something near the embankment. He nudges it with his boot. It slides. The canvas peels back on the slope and there's a foot underneath it. He doesn't touch anything else. He runs to a nearby service station and calls the Scott County Sheriff's Office. Deputies arrive and recover the bundle. Inside, a woman. No ID, no jewelry, no clothes at all. Bound tight with industrial twine. Her fingernails are torn down past the nail bed. The coroner documents a blow to the skull. Cause of death: asphyxiation. No name, no missing persons report waiting on a desk that matches her. Nothing. For 30 years, nobody could answer one simple question: who was she? Before we continue, if you enjoy deeply researched true crime documentaries built from original records and evidence, subscribe, because this case raises a question that's difficult to ignore. How does someone disappear for 30 years without anyone connecting the pieces? Let's go back to Kentucky. A composite sketch goes out to newspapers across the state, an artist's best attempt at a face that decomposition had already taken away. 5'1", reddish-brown hair, a gap between her front teeth. Somewhere, a mother sees it. She picks up the phone. Her daughter has been gone for months. 15 years old. The description is close enough that it stops being a maybe. A detective pulls the file, lays it next to the sketch, starts making calls to arrange a transfer. A body finally going home. A family finally allowed to bury someone instead of waiting on them. Then a phone rings in another county. The missing girl is alive. She ran off with her boyfriend. She's sitting in a police station 3 states over, confused about why anyone thinks she's dead. The file closes. The board stays exactly the way it was. Somewhere in Kentucky, a woman who actually is missing stays missing. The deputy coroner tries a different approach. Science instead of a phone tip. He studies the body, measures the decomposition, writes down one number: late April, early May, 1968. Weeks old, not months. It's the kind of number an investigation can be built around. It's wrong. The body spent a Kentucky winter exposed to freezing temperatures before anyone found it. Cold slows everything down. Nobody accounted for that. The medical examiner writes down a second number: 16 to 19 years old. She was 24. A detective flips through a stack of files. Missing teenage girls. One folder, another. None of them fit. The file he actually needs never leaves its drawer. A 24-year-old woman, gone the same winter, filed under an age nobody thought to check. 15 miles away, in Lexington, a family walks into a police station. A report gets typed up. A wife, a mother, gone since December. 15 miles. 2 filing cabinets, one in each county. Each one holds half the answer. Neither detective knows the other file exists. No shared list. No standing call between one sheriff's office and the next. A folder doesn't know a matching folder exists unless somebody physically carries it there. Nobody carries it there. By 1971, there's nothing left to try. No new leads. No more county money to keep a body waiting in storage for a family that was never coming. A local monument company donates a headstone. Someone carves what's left to carve: an estimated age, an estimated date, a sketch of a face that isn't quite hers. The stone goes into the ground at Georgetown Cemetery. Grass, a quiet section of the cemetery, a small crowd, mostly strangers who came because somebody should. The stone settles into place. No name on it. Just measurements, a guess at a birthday, a face drawn by a man who never met her. The investigation had nowhere left to go. If the people trained to solve murders couldn't give her back her name, who finally did? She never left the house without fixing her nails first. Even on the days she came home smelling like a diner kitchen, feet aching from a double shift, she'd sit at the edge of the bed and take care of them anyway. A small thing. The kind of small thing a person keeps doing because it's still theirs to control. A photograph survives from around this time. A young woman, gap-toothed smile, a baby balanced on one hip. A toddler tugs at her sleeve. She laughs, loud, quick, the kind of laugh that fills a small kitchen. Someone who knew her back then still remembers that laugh, decades later, before they remember much else. She adjusts a blanket, bare feet against the linoleum, waitress uniform still on from her shift. There's an old photograph, too, from years before any of this. A young girl standing beside a house that isn't the one she grew up finishing her childhood in. Behind her, water reaches almost to the porch steps. A flood took her father and a brother that year. Afterward, 6 children, a mother who couldn't hold on to all of them, a single suitcase, a new house in a new town that belonged to somebody else's family, not hers. She wanted, more than most people ever have to say out loud, somewhere that was actually hers. A wedding photograph, a carnival worker, a route that moved town to town, season to season. Not exactly the stillness she'd pictured, but it was hers. 3 children come fast after that. A boy, a girl. Then, in the spring of 1967, another daughter, born in a town the family had only just landed in, Lexington, Kentucky. She waitresses double shifts. Feet aching, an 8-month-old at home along with the older 2. She writes letters back to Illinois. Not often, but she writes them. Then the letters slow down. A sister writes back. No response. Another letter. Nothing. Someone remarks it's been a while since anyone's heard from her. Someone else says she's probably just busy. 3 kids, a waitressing job, a husband whose work never keeps him in one place long. The house in Lexington gets quieter in ways nobody back home can quite see from a distance. Fewer visits. Fewer trips into town as a family. Whatever is happening behind that door isn't happening in front of anyone who'd notice. December comes. Kentucky turns cold. The sky low and gray the way it gets before a hard winter sets in. Then, one day, she was gone. What happened inside that house? Halloween night, 1987. 17-year-old Todd Matthews is sitting on a front porch listening to ghost stories. His girlfriend's name is Lori Riddle. Her father digs wells for a living. She tells a story about him, 19 years earlier, walking a stretch of highway hunting old glass insulators, finding a body wrapped in canvas. For everyone else at the table, that's where it ends. A good story for October, forgotten by November. Todd Matthews doesn't forget it. A factory floor, grease on his hands, a time clock, a paycheck built for rent and groceries, not much beyond it. He visits the grave once, then he goes back. He starts asking Wilbur Riddle questions. Where exactly he was standing, what the canvas looked like sliding down the slope. Details a well digger probably assumed nobody would ask about twice. He buys one true crime magazine, looking for any mention of an unidentified woman off Route 25. Then, a stack of them. The factory whistle blows. He clocks out. Some evenings the truck heads toward Georgetown instead of home. Weekend trips start. Gas money spent on drives that don't lead anywhere yet. Newspaper clippings cover the kitchen table. Not a few, all of it. Phone calls to strangers who might remember something from 1968. Years of this. A shift, a drive. A call. Nothing. By the mid-1990s, the kitchen table has disappeared under paper entirely. Clippings, notes, a description he's had memorized for the better part of a decade. 5'1", reddish-brown hair, a gap in her front teeth. He stopped asking what investigators found. He started asking what they never searched for. A microfiche machine hums in a library basement. Todd feeds in another reel. A name stops him mid-scroll. Right region, right age. He writes down everything on the page, finds a phone number, makes the call. The family agrees to meet. He drives out that week. A photograph comes across the table. A woman who could, from a distance, from an old newspaper sketch, be the same person he's been carrying in his head for years. He studies it, compares it against the description. Height, hair, the gap in the teeth. Wrong woman. He goes back to the reels. Weeks later, a phone call leads somewhere new. A sister, gone the same year, same part of the country. He drives across Kentucky to meet the family. They sit at a kitchen table together. He asks about dental records, about height, about anything documented that might match. They send away for the records. He waits. 3 weeks pass before an answer comes back. It isn't her. He drives home with a receipt for gas he didn't have room for in the budget and one more folder for the box. He goes back to Wilbur Riddle, asks him to walk through the discovery again, where he was standing, which direction the bundle rolled. Riddle has already told him this more than once. Nothing changes. The kitchen table disappears under paper. Boxes appear in the spare room, then on shelves, then in a second room that used to be for something else. A long-distance phone bill arrives, thicker than the one before it. Somewhere in these years, a set of details lines up in a way that finally feels solid, an age that fits, a timeline that fits, a family that seems almost certain. He follows it as far as the records will take him. The last piece never arrives. Whatever he was chasing stays just out of reach. Another name gets crossed off a list that keeps getting longer instead of shorter. A computer sits in the house now, one that wasn't there a few years earlier. He hasn't found a use for it yet. Not for this. Every name he could find has already been checked. The answer isn't where he's been looking. He just doesn't know where else to look yet. The computer sits in the corner of the house for a while before he really uses it for this. He types with 2 fingers, slow, hunting each key before he presses it. A page loads one piece at a time, the modem screeching through its handshake before anything appears on the screen at all. In 1997, he builds a web page, a few photographs, the forensic sketch, the measurements he's had memorized for a decade. He calls it tentgirl.com. He starts spending his nights at the keyboard instead of at the kitchen table. The newspaper clippings are still there, spread out next to the monitor. The old investigation and the new one sharing the same workspace now. He finds message boards where people post about relatives who never came home. He reads one posting, then another. A name, a date, a description that doesn't match. He closes it, opens the next one. Some nights he prints what he finds, stacking the pages beside the keyboard next to everything else he's already collected. County maps, sticky notes, a photograph of a headstone with no name on it. A calendar page turns, then another. He keeps searching. Different boards, different postings. Over weeks, he learns which corners of this new network are worth his time and which are simply more strangers with different stories. End quote. The pile of printed pages grows the way the newspaper clippings once did. January 1998. He's working through postings again. The same routine he's kept up most nights for the better part of a year. Scroll. Read. No match. Scroll again. The screen refreshes. A new posting. A woman writing from Arkansas. He starts reading. He stops. Todd reads the message again. A woman named Rosemary Westbrook, writing from Benton, Arkansas. Looking for a sister. Gone since 1967. Last seen in Lexington, Kentucky. Todd writes back that same night. What follows is an exchange between 2 strangers. Todd explaining, carefully, why a posting about a missing sister might connect to a grave he's visited more times than he can count. Rosemary sends photographs, old family snapshots, the kind that end up in a shoebox because nobody expects to need them for anything else. A woman, smiling, a gap between her front teeth. Todd has seen that gap before, carved into a headstone by an artist who never met the woman it was supposed to represent. Rosemary Westbrook contacts the Scott County Sheriff's Office. The file goes to Dr. Emily Craig, Kentucky's state forensic anthropologist. Dr. Craig lays the family photographs beside the dental charts, the cranial sketches, studies the bone structure, the positioning of the teeth. It's enough to authorize what the case has never had before. March 2nd, 1998. Georgetown Cemetery. The remains are exhumed, transported to the State Forensic Laboratory in Frankfurt. What the lab needs is inside a tooth, dense pulp, protected from 30 years of decomposition in a way bone and tissue aren't. It's compared against a cheek swab from Rosemary. Her mother's mitochondrial DNA passed down the same maternal line it would have passed to a sister she hasn't seen since 1967. 6 weeks of laboratory analysis, a calendar on a kitchen wall, pages turning, Rosemary 3 states away, waiting by a phone. The grave at Georgetown stays exactly as it's always been. Quiet, unremarkable. A stranger's headstone still standing. April 22nd, 1998. The laboratory returns its result, a match. For 30 years, she had no name. Now she did. Barbara Ann Hackman Taylor. The nails she always kept neat. The children she adored. The letters that stopped arriving in Illinois. The grave that strangers tended for 3 decades, never knowing whose it was. All of it belongs to her now. The Hackman family adds a second stone beneath the original marker, her real name, her nickname Bobby, her correct birth date, loving mother, grandmother, and sister. Barbara finally had her name back. Justice was another story. A house in Lexington, Kentucky, December 1967. Barbara is gone. George Taylor tells her sisters a story. She's run off. Found another man. No missing person report gets filed. Not that week. Not that month. Not ever. By him. Within days, the children are with relatives. George Jr. Bonnie, Michelle, 8 months old. George leaves Kentucky, north, along Route 25 onto Interstate 75, the highway that runs straight from Lexington into Ohio, where his own family is from. 17 months later, a body is found off Route 25, 13 miles north of Georgetown, wrapped in green and white canvas, commercial grade, the kind used to cover carnival tents. George worked carnivals for a living. No one connects this in 1968. There's no name on the body, no report linking a missing woman in Lexington to an unidentified body in Scott County. 30 years pass. Then, in 1998, the DNA match. The body has a name, Barbara Ann Hackman Taylor. Investigators reopen the file. This time, the timeline gets laid out in full. The canvas, carnival-grade material, George's profession, the route, Route 25, running past the exact discovery site on the path George drove north. The story he told her family, unverifiable because Barbara wasn't there to speak for herself. The children, placed with relatives within days. No missing person report, filed by no one who knew him. One more piece. From the original 1968 autopsy, Barbara's fingernails, torn down past the nail bed. The pathologist's notes describe damage consistent with someone still alive inside the canvas. Investigators named George Earl Taylor the primary suspect in his wife's murder. He died of cancer in October 1987, 11 years before Barbara's name came back to her. No detective ever sat across a table from him. No one ever asked him where he was in December 1967. The man who likely held the answers was gone long before anyone knew who needed the questions. Barbara has her name back. For a moment, that's enough. A headstone with real words on it now. A family with an answer instead of a question. Georgetown Cemetery remains unchanged. Barbara's case exposed something nobody had fixed. 2 counties, 15 miles apart, each holding half an answer, neither one able to see the other's files. That gap didn't close with Barbara. It was just the first time anyone proved it could. In 2001, a website built for one woman becomes something larger, the Doe Network. Volunteers, doing by hand what used to take decades, comparing files, cross-referencing descriptions, looking for the kind of match that once took 10 years and a factory worker's entire savings. In 2005, the Department of Justice takes notice. 2 years later, that attention becomes NamUs, a national system built so a report filed in one county and a body found 15 miles away in another never sit unconnected again. Cases start closing that would have stayed open. Families start getting calls that would have never come. Todd Matthews dies at his home in Livingston, Tennessee on January 3, 2024, 53 years old. Georgetown Cemetery again, morning light across the grass. 2 headstones, one beneath the other. The first still reads Tent Girl, a reporter's invention from a week in 1968 when nobody had anything better to call her. The second sits below it, her real name, her nickname, the family she came from, the family she made. Fresh flowers, left by someone who never knew her, the way they have been for decades. For 30 years, the world knew her as Tent Girl. Today, she rests under her own name, Barbara Ann Hackman Taylor. Georgetown Cemetery. Morning light filters through the trees. Wind moves softly across the grass. The original marker, Tent Girl. Beneath it, the stone that finally answered the question. For 30 years, the world asked one question. Who was she? Barbara Ann Hackman Taylor. If you found this documentary worth watching, I'd appreciate it if you took a second to like the video and subscribe. Every subscription helps me keep researching and telling stories like this one. And if you're ready for another case, the next documentary is on your screen now. Click it, and I'll see you there.